Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on Faith Nation. I'm George Thomas, in for John Jessup and Jenna Browder. Just 4 days and counting until the final votes get cast. Today, President Trump and Joe Biden are vying for voters in crucial Midwest states, both making stops in Wisconsin and Minnesota. The president will also be in Michigan, Biden in Iowa. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergender has more on this final election sprint.
Picking up electoral votes in this part of the country is the priority as both candidates keep up a frantic pace to gain ground in the homestretch.
Bolstered by record-breaking economic numbers Thursday,
33.1%. That was the biggest increase in the history of our country. Hello, Michigan.
The president goes on another campaign sprint, this time to the Midwest. Insisting he doesn't take anything for granted, Joe Biden is scheduling his busiest day yet.
We're going to change the course of the country and, quite frankly, the world.
Between the two campaigns, they're targeting 4 states Friday: Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Biden trying to shore up leads with blue-collar workers Hillary Clinton neglected in the final days 4 years ago. Iowa and Wisconsin are swing states President Trump won in 2016. Republicans are also making a play for Minnesota, where Hillary Clinton was victorious. Both states among those wrestling with an increase in COVID-19 cases. The candidates sending a very different message to voters.
You're going to get better. You're going to get better. If I can get better, anybody can get better, and I got better fast.
President Trump's super spreader events, and he's spreading more virus around the country.
Meanwhile, as both campaigns rush to make their case,
if voting didn't matter, then we wouldn't do this.
Voters are flocking to the polls in big numbers across the country, many braving hours in line to cast their ballots.
In the cold, wife complaining.
More than 83+ million voters have already cast their ballots in early voting record. In the reliably red state of Texas, early voting exceeding the total number of ballots cast in 2016. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergender, CBN News.
Thanks, Tara. Pennsylvania is another critical state to win for the candidates. President Trump won over the state back in 2016. CBN's Jenna Browder traveled there to hear from voters about this time around.
Erie County is one of a handful of swing counties in battleground Pennsylvania. Traditionally a blue county, home to many hardworking blue-collar Americans. It flipped red for Donald Trump in 2016. And now in 2020, there's still support for him here on the ground. But there's also a lot of enthusiasm for Joe Biden, and that's something Hillary Clinton didn't have.
I travel a little bit, so when I go to rural areas, I think I see more Trump signs. When I'm in the city, it's more 50-50.
And that's what we saw too on our Rust Belt road trip. In more rural Erie County, Trump-Pence signs dominate. But in downtown Erie, Biden-Harris signs fill the lawns.
Well, I think the 2020 election contrasts sharply with what we saw going on in 2016 here in Erie County.
Joseph Morris, head of the political science department at Mercyhurst University, says these signs indicate voter enthusiasm.
In 2016, it was difficult to find a Hillary Clinton sign anywhere in the city. This year, there are Joe Biden signs everywhere.
Historically, Erie County votes blue in local and national elections.
I like to describe the people who live in Erie County as salt of the earth. These people are hardworking, a very proud people that unfortunately have been without jobs. Many of them have been without jobs for quite a while.
And that's how Donald Trump flipped it to red in 2016, promising to bring back manufacturing jobs.
I believe he has kept his word. He's done what he said. He's a strong leader.
Out of my friends, we're all Trump supporters. And we have a couple of friends who were Biden supporters, but they have switched to Trump this year.
I think he's a narcissist. I think he's off his, I really do think he's not all there.
We got mixed reaction from locals on the candidates. Matt Alexander says he's not thrilled with either.
I talked to a bunch of different friends and people, and I think that this year, I think that sometimes we'll say we don't think we have great choices, but this year I think it really exemplifies it this election.
Most polls got it wrong in 2016, but if they're more accurate this time around, that's good news for the Biden campaign here in blue-collar America, where the race could ultimately be decided. In Erie County, Pennsylvania, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thank you, Jenna. CBN News senior editor John Waggy joins us more for the election home stretch. So back in 2016, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 44,292 points. It was the narrowest margin in the presidential election in that state in 176 years. Yeah. Your prediction, you're putting Pennsylvania in the Trump column. Why?
Once again, partly because of the incredible fanaticism, if you want to say, of his base. I mean, they are committed, and despite all the efforts over the years, nothing has been able to separate Trump from his base. I don't think many Trump voters are going to say, oh, gee, you know, I don't think he fulfilled promises. I'm not going to vote for him this time. The people who voted for Trump are going to be there again. I think that the Trump campaign has registered some new voters. I'm not minimizing the anti-Trump feeling. Sure. I don't think in Pennsylvania and many other states is as much or pro-Biden as it is anti-Trump. So the anti-Trump people are going to come out in force too, bound to be close. But I think the whole flack over energy and what Joe Biden said about concerning fracking and all that kind of thing. I think you're talking about, if I got the numbers right, 600,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. So that's not small potatoes.
John, both gentlemen are campaigning in the Midwest this weekend. Why are these states so critical?
Well, because they were the battleground states last time. In fact, they usually are. And they have a rich kind of trove of electoral votes as well. And so that's where it ends up being. Of course, they've got Florida and North Carolina, too. But these upper Midwest states, and there's a balance between urban and rural. Rural, I can tell you, from having just driven through those states, the Trump signs are everywhere in the rural counties. It's a base election. If that base shows up more than the urban, and the suburban will be in the middle, then Trump wins. If the urban voters come and try to reject him, then Biden could win those states. So that's why they're there.
Yeah, you are not big on polls this year, but there's a stunning statistic. According to Rasmussen daily tracking poll, 31% of black voters plan to vote for President Trump. Back in 2016, President Trump just won 8% of the 2016 compared to 88% going for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
With a 31% support from the African-American community, that would be a game changer, right?
Absolutely it would be, George. And we don't know how accurate that poll is. Again, the Rasmussen poll was a daily tracking poll, but still, that number is phenomenally high. And if it came anywhere close to that, not only Pennsylvania, not only, Michigan, for instance, but states like Virginia could even conceivably be in play. And I know that Democrats are rejecting that out of hand, but it's not out of the question if it were a number that high.
Yeah.
And we'll have to wait to see if it really is.
Last question, a minute here. Do you believe the Hunter Biden controversy is having any impact on the race thus far?
I think it is. Now, I have no way to measure that, but the idea that the media are trying to censor this story and that the claims from this man, Bobulinski, are credible. He's an honored Navy veteran, and the revelations just keep on coming. So I think there is some, especially as a motivator for Trump base supporters to get out because they're sick to death of the corruption. Remember, the Drain the Swamp Champ was huge in 2016. And this just kind of reinforces that. So I think it's having an impact. I think even others, when they see that social media is blocking the story so Americans can't even find out for themselves, that's something that could have an effect.
The fact that the news is not covering this big news is becoming a news event.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, terrific, John. As always, thank you. And make sure that you guys are watching the CBN News Channel next week. He will be there on here joining us as well. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Great. Have a great weekend. Colorado voters, thank you, will have the opportunity to vote on Election Day to ban late-term abortions in their state. Proposition 115 would make it illegal for a woman to have an abortion after 22 weeks, except when the life of the mother is at risk. My colleague Charlene Aaron reports pro-lifers are hopeful about the measure. Take a look.
Colorado is one of several states without time limits on when a woman can get an abortion. Pro-lifers in the state hope voters will change that narrative by voting yes on Election Day to a measure that restricts abortion after 22 weeks.
This has been the blood, sweat, and tears of Christians and pro-lifers in this state. It's on the November 3rd ballot now. We're quite excited about it.
In 1967, Colorado became the first state to legalize abortion, 6 years before Roe v. Wade made it legal nationwide. More than 50 years later, it's one of 7 states, plus the District of Columbia, that allows a baby to be aborted up to the 9th month. Across the state, abortion opponents, including Focus on the Family, hope to change that with the initiative Proposition 115.
Colorado needs to join the majority of states who recognize that a baby's life at 22 weeks and capable of experiencing pain will stick its tongue out, will suck its thumb, and can recognize its mother's voice.
It also includes serious consequences for doctors who violate the order.
It makes it a misdemeanor, and a physician performing such an abortion would lose his license for a period of 3 years. It does not punish the woman at all for undergoing the abortion.
The editorial board of the Denver Post opposes the ban, saying Colorado's prosecutors should not be in exam rooms with patients and their obstetricians. Proposition 115 would put the long arm of Colorado's law in the middle of the complicated, tragic, and sometimes life and death decisions doctors help women with high-risk pregnancies make every day in this state. We hope voters refuse this ban on abortions after 22 weeks of gestation. Many are split on the issue. A recent poll found that 42% favor the ban, while 45% say they'll vote no. Past attempts to restrict abortion have failed. Earlier this year, state lawmakers voted down legislation that would have mandated physicians provide medical care to a child born alive after or during an abortion. House Connect says this latest plan is more promising.
This puts us in the mainstream of all the rest of the states out there and makes it a much better chance of passing.
Still, he's urging believers across the country to pray that Prop 115 succeeds. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. Now to the extreme weather impacting much of the nation as the remnants of Hurricane Zeta are now out to sea. The powerful storm made landfall as a Category 2 hurricane in Louisiana, killing at least 6 people. The storm brought 110-mile-per-hour winds and over 8 feet of storm surge to Mississippi, also leaving a trail of destruction across Georgia as it moved inland and causing nearly 2 million folks to lose power up the East Coast. Hopefully they'll get back very quickly. Moving overseas, a strong earthquake has rocked Turkey and Greece, killing at least 8 people. Officials say more than 250 people have been injured after the 7.0 magnitude quake hit the Aegean Sea today. The quake triggering a small tsunami and damaging over a dozen buildings in Turkey's western province. Turkey's emergency authority said it has sent search and rescue teams into the area. A tsunami warning is in place for the Greek island of Samos. Coming up, the election outcome and potential for violence, and whatever happened to good civics and peaceable outcomes to elections in the U.S. We will tackle that story and much more in a moment. Stay with us.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get updates on the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch on the CBN News Channel or on the CBN News app.
Folks, welcome back. You're watching the CBN News Channel. One concern following Tuesday's presidential election is further civil unrest and violence due to the sharp divisions that are rampant in our nation. Walmart, by the way, reportedly pulling all guns and ammo from its shelves just as one precautionary measure. Amy Schwerer with the Heritage Foundation joins us now with more. Welcome, Amy. No doubt we are a nation divided. Do you expect to see the unrest everyone is talking about?
Well, I think if 2016 even is anything to go by, I think certainly there is a high likelihood of some of that same sort of unrest, especially coming on the heels of a summer that has also seen a lot of unrest. You're seeing businesses in places like D.C. and around the country in terms of places like Walmart already taking precautions, sort of just assuming this is going to happen. And I think especially if Donald Trump is reelected, that likelihood of violence continues to rise. So I think, unfortunately, this is a scenario that a lot of major cities around the country are going to have to contend with on Election Day.
Yeah. Amy, how did we get to this point where election outcomes aren't accepted and actually protested with violence here in America?
Well, I mean, there are many books that are going to be written on that. I think there is, a long story behind sort of the history of all of this. But I think 2016 in particular was really a turning point where for, weeks and months even after that, you saw this resurgence of the resistance, sort of this ongoing theme of, the election didn't go our way, it's illegitimate, and therefore we are going to be disruptive. And you're seeing preparations, frankly, from some of the same groups for the 2020 election. If you go on social media, you can see that there are plenty of groups, especially here in D.C., that are already planning, regardless of who wins, of committing social unrest with very detailed maps and targets and plans of actions. And it's very unfortunate. But I think, again, 2016 was a turning point, and we're going to continue seeing that in 2020.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there a civics lesson that isn't being taught anymore that needs to when it comes to our democratic republic and how our political system operates?
Yeah, I think there are some civics lessons, plural, that need to be taught. But I also think another unfortunate reality is the way that social media and this 24/7 news of doom and gloom is sort of playing into this, that every single election feels as though it is the end of the world if one party or the other doesn't win. Yeah. And I think it's playing on a lot of pre-existing fears that people already had coming into this election.
Yeah. Final question, can the candidates themselves help turn this around?
Well, I think the biggest thing that candidates can do is, again, if there is that civil unrest, to tell their supporters, look, this is part of democracy. This is the legacy of American democracy, that we have peaceful transitions of power. That is what sets us apart, both in history and in the world. This idea of peaceful transitions of power, that we accept the results of elections, and that instead of fighting that with violence, we go to the polls the next time to undo those decisions if we don't like them.
Yeah, okay. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. Amy Schwerer with the Heritage Foundation. Have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Still ahead, what the historic peace agreement between Israel and Sudan could mean for the Middle East and religious freedom.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Sudan's leader, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, says the historic peace deal between his country and Israel brings his nation back into the global system after the U.S. delisted it as a state sponsor of terrorism. I asked Tony Perkins with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom what it means for the Middle East. Take a listen. Joining me is Tony Perkins, President of the Family Research Council and Vice Chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. Mr. Perkins, thank you so much for coming on the show. Sudan has been an enemy of Israel since the Jewish state was formed back in 1948. How significant is this peace deal, and what does it mean for both countries?
It's huge. I mean, you consider for the last 3 decades, Omar al-Bashir has been the head of Sudan. That obviously changed. We have a new government, a transitional government that is moving this nation forward, religious freedom. I was there in February of this year meeting with Prime Minister Hamdok. And the fact that they've come to a peace agreement with Israel is a sea change in the Middle East. What we're seeing unfold right now is historic, where you see these countries of Muslim origins in terms of their orientation coming to a point of peace with Israel is quite significant.
Since the fall of Sudan's dictator Omar al-Bashir, the majority Muslim nation has taken some dramatic steps to ensure religious freedom and human rights. For example, Tony, repealing the controversial apostasy law. How important, in your opinion, are these steps?
Quite significant. In this miscellaneous amendment act, they not only took away the apostasy laws, they ended flogging. It allows Muslims greater freedom, banned FGM and other controversial and repressive tactics. But also what's happening there is a reform in their education system, where they're changing their textbooks to be more open about all religious, the religious faiths.
Tony, I'm curious, could we see countries like Pakistan, Nigeria, and Afghanistan take similar measures to repeal their apostasy laws on the book?
You know, we're trying hard to move them in that direction, but Sudan being one of the first to take that step is something we hope to build on, to show that you can do this, opening the door to freedom. And this is what is so important, is that the United States is leading the way. The Trump administration has been promoting religious freedom internationally as their #1 foreign policy. And now we're beginning to see fruit from this. We've got to stay focused on it. Can it be done? Yes, but it's going to require an intent an intensive focus and an intentional effort to make it happen.
President Trump says there are up to 10 countries that are already ready to make peace with Israel. There's speculation that Kuwait, Oman, Morocco, Qatar and Saudi Arabia are on the list. Can you describe, Tony, what is fueling this sudden sea change in the Middle East?
Well, it's a combination of factors. One, there's a common enemy called Iran, but there is also a concerted effort by this administration to bring these countries together. Economic activity. There's been meetings there talking about economic development, religious freedom. Those two things go hand in hand. And so if this administration comes back for another 4 years, I look for more of this in the Middle East.
All right, terrific. We'll have to leave it right there. Tony, thank you so much for coming on the broadcast.
As always, great to be with you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust. CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters. On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Finally, tonight, it's something that literally only happens once in a blue moon. For the first time in decades, a blue hunter's moon will illuminate the night sky over all of America on October 31st. Despite its name, the moon will not actually appear blue, but will have an orange tint when it's closer to the horizon. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this Friday edition of Faith Nation. From all of us here from the headquarters of the Christian Broadcasting Network, have a fantastic weekend ahead. Goodbye and God bless.